recap and celebration of the newest MonsterVerse film, King Kong, Journeys to the Center of the Hollow Earth, featuring Godzilla. He's also here, kinda. Not really. I thought what better time to look back on the MonsterVerse cinematic universe and go, wow, is this the second best cinematic universe we have? Wait, no, sorry. I somehow temporarily forgot about Sony's Spider-Man universe. You know, the one without Spider-Man. Oh, and then there's the Dark Universe. The Dark Universe again. And then there's the DCEU, I suppose, if I'm just naming literally all of them. What I'm trying to say is, the MonsterVerse is the second to seventh best cinematic universe. It really just depends on how much you enjoy seeing a really big monkey and a really big lizard who shoots laser beams punch each other. And I, for one, enjoy that quite a lot. Number 5. Godzilla, King of the Monsters. Godzilla 2 gets a bit of a bad rap, and whilst a lot of those criticisms are totally valid, in particular the human element, all the human characters are completely wasted, all the emotion doesn't really work, but for the most part, I think this film is really cool and interesting and has a unique visual style unlike all of the other films, and it gives us some of the most glorious, brilliant, crazy, horrifying kaiju action sequences that we've ever been given. I particularly think the Rodan Awakening first action sequence is truly spectacular and maybe one of the best ones in the entire franchise. I really do think Godzilla 2 gets a bit of a bad rap. I personally really enjoy this film, but unfortunately, even for someone like me who loves all of these films in their own different, unique ways, one film in this rankings video has to come last and has to draw the short straw. And so unfortunately for Godzilla 2 King of the Monsters, it drew the short straw. I think it drew the short straw. If I'm going to be completely honest, when Godzilla 2 was picking its straw, I actually couldn't see the size of the straw. There was just too much smoke and lightning, and it was very, very dark at the time. There was so much rain and snow and just general murky debris in my line of sight between me and the thing I was trying to see, which was the size of the straw. I just couldn't really see what I wanted to see in the moment because it was just so very dark. I tried to squint. I tried to move my position for a different angle. I gave it some time. I'm like, well, it's stormy right now. Maybe in 2 minutes it won't be stormy. Oh, it's snowing now. Oh, it's raining now. It's still dark though. For some reason, just nighttime seemed to just be never ending. And so of course I am just presuming that the straw that Godzilla 2 picked out of the bucket of straws or whatever's going on here, it was the shortest straw. Why am I presuming that? Maybe this isn't the worst film in the franchise. It is. It's so obviously the worst film in the franchise. Also, this film has maybe the worst line of dialogue ever committed to screen in any movie ever. I don't know, that's a huge call, but it is truly atrocious. And it's not just atrocious because it's in the movie, but it's who they make say the words. And that is Bradley Whitford, who you will definitely know from The West Wing, made by Aaron Sorkin, who might be the greatest wordsmith ever created by whoever created him, his mum, I suppose. Aaron Sorkin is one of the greatest writers of all time, and Bradley Whitford, who played Josh Lyman in The West Wing, said those words so very good. So funny, charismatic, cool, charming, and he made you think you cared about politics. But then as soon as the show ends, you're like, oh, I didn't. I just really like how Aaron Sorkin writes and how Bradley Whitford says the words that he writes. And so to then put Bradley Whitford, old, sexy, still charismatic Bradley Whitford, in a movie and make him utter the horrendous line, just prepare yourself. You've forgotten. Unless you watched the movie last night, you've forgotten how bad it is. So we've got Kyle Chandler and he's like, something like Godzilla appears or whatever. And he's like, oh, my God. And then it cuts over to Bradley Whitford and he goes, Zilla. My God, Zilla. Number 4, Godzilla. This film has aged like fine wine. Or a fine cheese, if you heard fine wine and you're like, but I hate all wine. What does that mean? What does fine wine mean? They're all bad wines. Old wine, young wine, all bad. This film has aged like fine cheese. But that's also a bad example because young baby cheese is just as delicious as old cheese. Old cheese, in a way, is just very delicious. Except for blue cheese. Get your blue cheese out of here, cheese. Man, maker of cheese, god of cheese. What are you doing with blue cheese? I'm getting distracted. And you know why? Because I feel like anything I have to say about Gareth Edwards' Godzilla film is essentially the same thing everybody has to say about Gareth Edwards' Godzilla film. It kind of feels like regardless if you love it, hate it, or think it's kind of middling, we all have like the same opinion on it, on what works, on what doesn't, on what they should have done differently. So I kind of feel like I don't have anything to say about Godzilla, so why not talk about how much I hate blue cheese? But hold on, what am I talking about? What is the internet if not a place for idiots to just voice their opinion on something that they are going to say the exact same thing someone else has said, just less interestingly, less funny, less creatively. And they're just gonna echo chamber a thing they've been thinking for 10 years. I mean, that's literally what the internet's for, essentially, right? So, without further ado, let's get to my review of Godzilla. Gareth Edwards, what a director, what a spectacular director. He always does the same things right and the same things wrong in every single film. Godzilla, Rogue One, The Creator, every single one of those films is so character focused, with such interesting, thought-provoking characters, with plots you've never seen before, character arcs that are unheard of, and the acting performances of these people that are career-defining. But on the other hand, his visuals, flat, boring, uninteresting. The man doesn't know how to shoot a big thing. It's just so frustrating to see someone who clearly understands how to get great performances from actors, but he just doesn't understand the visual language of cinema. It's like, dude, if you're shooting monsters or Death Stars but it's not in the Star Wars universe, you need to have an understanding of this one very specific word that I just don't think is in your vocabulary. And that is scale. Gareth Edwards, have you ever heard of scale? Gareth Edwards, you need to call up Adam Wingard, director of Godzilla x Kong. It's like, bro, I understand that you're not really interested in characters, but your sense of scale and weight and awe and spectacle and shooting the monsters from a human perspective is untold of. It's unparalleled. It might be the greatest strength you have that no other director in Hollywood has, but I don't get it. I don't understand. I don't even know what the word scale is. Adam Wingard, please help me. But I do want to end on a serious note. Much like this Godzilla film, very serious film. This is probably the best film in the franchise, like as an actual movie. Especially 10 years later, you look back and you're like, wow, this is doing a lot right. Like, Godzilla is so spectacular in this film. He probably still looks the best in this film. There are just some truly spectacular moments in this film in terms of visuals and scale and scope. It just some of the best stuff I've ever seen in anything. It is so very good, and the way it slowly builds up to that final fight, it is unparalleled. It's like a real movie. And the only reason it's number 4 is because I am an idiot, and I like big, dumb, stupid things. So I particularly like the 2 Versus movies, even though they are hot garbage nonsense. That's just my type of jam. What can I say? I love a big monkey more than a big lizard, even though I do love Big Lizard. He shoots a laser beam. That's sick. But King Kong's a big monkey. I don't know. There's something about him where I just see him and I'm like, that's my boy. That's my boy. Speaking of my boy, number 3, Kong, Skull Island. I love how in this movie, they're like, so, King Kong, he's a big monkey. But what if he was a really big monkey? Yes, please. Kong Skull Island takes everything I like about King Kong from the original 30s one and Peter Jackson's 2005 masterpiece. They take everything I like about that version of King Kong and what I perceived as King Kong and don't use it at all. They're just like, we like the big monkey on an island idea. But what's the best part about him being on that island? The dinosaurs. What if no dinosaurs? What if no climbing up the biggest skyscraper in the world and fighting helicopters? What if no emotional human connection with the woman? What if no metaphors and symbolism to slavery, racism, colonialism? What if we take away everything that makes King Kong and just make him really big? I would have thought that wouldn't work. And maybe it doesn't. But I love Kong Skull Island so very much. I love the idea that they were like, okay, so we're not going to have dinosaurs. What if we have very unique, specific, camouflage-heavy creatures? We're going to have a giant spider that lives in a bamboo forest, so its legs are bamboo. What do you think about that? I love it. We're going to have a big log monster that at first glance is just a big log, but then when you sit on it, it gets up, and all of its legs are also logs. What do you think about that? I love it. We're going to have a tree, and you're going to think it's got all these leaves on it, but then you shoot a bird next to it, and it turns out all the leaves are just birds. Camouflage tree leaf birds. What do you think about that? I love it. We're gonna have skull crawlers instead of dinosaurs. What do you think about that? That one I don't love. Kong in this movie is absolutely spectacular. I love the new design. He looks really, really cool. He eats a big squid in one point, and I'm just like, look at him eat that squid. That's some good stuff. Yes, I am easily pleased when it comes to big monkeys. What do you want from me? The opening sequence where they come onto the island and start bombing it, and then Kong just rocks up, and there's the apocalypse now shot and the sun's behind him, and he's just like, I'm a big monkey. And it cuts to budget Andy Serkis, who does the mocap for Kong in this movie, but it's also in the movie in a minor role. Just like Andy Serkis did in King Kong. As I said, budget Andy Serkis. He's like, what is that, a big monkey? That's the worst accent. I apologize, but that's what he sounded like. Maybe. And Kong just wrecks shop. He just grabs the helicopter and he smashes them, he screams and he eats everybody. It's just good stuff. I really like that scene. It's probably my favorite scene in the entire franchise. It's good stuff. Things that don't necessarily work in Kong Skull Island, despite the fact that I absolutely love this film. This cast is stacked. We've got Loki, we've got Captain Marvel, we've got Nick Fury, we got like 10 other guys. This cast is stacked. But this cast is stacked. There are way too many characters in this movie. There are so many characters in this movie that don't really do anything. They're just there. A lot of cast is wasted. A lot of cast feels like there's opportunities to have them develop and do other things, or just cut some of them. If you can have this many characters but not kill them all, like they're not just there to be eaten by Godzilla and other big monsters, then why are they even here? What are we even doing? To set this film in the 70s and give it a Vietnam lens is almost something very interesting, but I feel like it comes across in the wrong way, where it's like, we got the soundtrack from the Vietnam War, we've got the costumes of all the war army guys, we've got metaphors of war, kind of, not really, and it feels like they almost try to do something really interesting with the idea of the Vietnam War, and these soldiers are coming to this place and they're bombing it and destroying this land, and they happen to shoot some of it in Vietnam, and it looks really beautiful and gorgeous, and it's got all these beautiful, gorgeous island jungle landscapes, and then the natives, King Kong, fight back, and it's almost something where like, oh, I can see what they're totally going for. But I do think, because the film is so fun and big and dumb and crazy, like there's a big ape eating squids, he's punching on with monsters, and it's just very light and fun, it kind of feels like they're like, what if we made a Vietnam War film? But fun? I don't know. That feels like the wrong decision. It feels a little weird. And I think they almost try to do something really interesting and clever with it, and it almost gets away with it, but it kind of feels like they're like, we want to have the aesthetic of an Apocalypse Now Vietnam War film. But what if we made it really cool? There's a big monkey, and he just punches things. And it just, that tonal balance, I don't think necessarily works. And I don't think I really noticed it the first time. It was just like the second or third or 19th time I've seen this movie. Yeah, I like this movie. It just feels like a really weird... Yeah, I don't know, but maybe we have enough serious Apocalypse Now war films. So maybe we're allowed to have a fun Vietnam War film. No, even just saying that, it just, no, no. But King Kong's in this movie and he punches helicopters, and I like that quite a lot. Number 2, Godzilla vs. Kong. I feel like your enjoyment over this film and whether it works or not really comes down to one thing. Do you want to see a really big monkey and a really big lizard stand on top of a really big boat and just like punch each other? Like Kong just socks him in the face like they're in a bar fight. It's just... might be the greatest shot in cinematic history. Yeah, shut up, Casablanca with that rose. Or is that Citizen Kane? I haven't seen either movies. Of course I haven't. My second favorite film in this franchise is Godzilla vs. Kong, and you know which one's my favorite. You know what I like. Big monsters punching each other. It's so good. I love the bit where Kong finds a big axe and he's like, this looks like I'll be able to fight a big lizard with this. And he sits in the hollow earth and he's like, yeah, alright, I don't mind this place. This is pretty dope. I absolutely love how crazy, insane the technology has gotten. Like, in Godzilla 2, sure, we have big spacecrafts and things that were like, well, that doesn't make sense compared to Godzilla 1. But the jump from 1 to 2, now to 2 to this movie, is absurd. It's nonsense. The entire universe has completely changed. It is so crazy and dumb. I just love it. Are the human characters intolerable? Some of them, yes. Particularly the conspiracy theorists and the two little kids, loathe them. All of that is atrocious. Hate all of that. But the big fights are spectacular, and that's what I'm here for. I'm here to see Godzilla fight a Kong, and it's truly glorious. I really love the whole Hollow Earth situation. It's super cool. I love how, because it's in the middle of the Earth, they're like, what if there are two landscapes and they're both the right way up, but they're not the right way up, like a bit of an Inception thing going on. But then when you get right to the middle, you do some anti-gravity thing or something and you flip up the other way and lands the right way up. It's just nonsense. It's pure hot garbage nonsense, but the tasty garbage. I think it gives something for Godzilla fans and Kong fans, where Godzilla wins, then Kong wins, then Godzilla wins again, but then they do a classic team up and Kong gets the final punch in or swing in for Mecha Godzilla, but also he couldn't have done it without his pal slash enemy, his frenemy, one might say, Godzilla. It's so much fun. It's just pure, insane, crazy fun. That moment where Godzilla's got him on the ground and he's just like, rah! And then Kong's like, rah! And they're just screaming at each other. That is cinema. Not that stupid rose at the end of Casablanca and or Citizen Kane and or potentially a third iconic good film from a time when I was like, I don't watch films from that time. Unless, of course, it's the 30s King Kong film or the 50s Godzilla film, because they're my jam. But forget about the metaphors and symbolism that those 30s and 50s films use for those two big monsters. Forget that. I don't care about that kind of stuff. There's no time for that when they've both got to be in a movie punching each other on a big boat. There's no time for themes or symbolism or a plot that's coherent and makes any sense. There's no time, because they gotta punch each other, because there can only be one Alpha Titan. Except at the end of the film when they're both like, I guess there'll be two of us, but we don't like each other. Don't come into my area again. You stay in the hollow earth, King Kong, and I'll stay on the surface of Earth. I hear the words I'm saying and I'm like, it's so dumb. I love how dumb it is. It warms my heart. Number 1, Godzilla x Kong. This is the single dumbest, most over-the-top, stupid, insane, crazy film I've ever seen. And I love every second of it. This film takes everything I love from Godzilla vs. Kong and times it by 1,000. This is just 2 hours of different kaijus fighting other kaijus. I love so very much how many titans were in this movie. Every 5-10 minutes, I was like, oh my god, another big monster for another monster to fight. Yes, please! Scale? What's that? Humans? Never heard of them. Big monsters punching? Yes. This film's cold opening has Kong in the Hollow Earth running away from a bunch of giant saber-toothed tiger, wolf, giant monster thingies. He's got traps everywhere. He's prepared like a Home Alone situation in the Hollow Earth. And then right at the end, he's surrounded by a bunch of them. He picks one of them up, rips it in half, and then just an explosion of gooey, gory mess just collapses over him. And he is covered head to toe in green, mucousy goo, and he just screams. Cut to Godzilla on the surface of the earth. He is sleeping in his home, the Colosseum, and then he runs at a monster, destroying literally all of Rome, destroys all of it, just runs at it, big, wide, daytime shot, grabs this giant monster spider, laser beams it, and it explodes in just an insanely over-the-top, gory, yellow, gooey mess. The explosion of goo alone would have killed thousands of people, and he is just covered head to toe in yellow goo, and he screams, and then cut Godzilla x Kong. That's the start of this movie. That's the first 5 minutes of this movie. It is like a Men in Black goo fest. Just goo exploding over everybody, but instead of Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones shooting an alien's head and being covered in goo, it's Godzilla and Kong killing other titans and just being covered in goo. It's just so good. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and comment below. What is your favorite film in the MonsterVerse? What is your rankings of the MonsterVerse? Oh, also, I just realized I didn't include Monarch Legacy of Monsters, but I feel like that says everything you need to know about what I thought about that show.